Greetings, BlazeLeeDragon here, and today I have my first book review for you, something that I'd mentioned doing on my channel. And the book that I have chosen to review is A Grimoire of Shadows by Ed Fitch, Witchcraft, Paganism, and Magic. This book is an older book that I've had for quite some time. I would say, let's see, must have been around 18-ish, so maybe 20. So definitely it's been over 15, 16 years that I've had this book. It was originally printed in 1996. The book at that time sold for $16.95. Here's a picture of the author and the original selling price here on the back. I have some pages marked that I'd like to review in this book review. Now, the first thing I'd like to say about this book is I highly recommend it. I think that if you have a chance to pick it up, I believe Amazon, as of 5/16/2017, carries it used for roughly $8 to $10, or you can buy it brand new for roughly $30. It is kind of hard to get a hold of, but it is such a rich, deep book that covers so much information that I definitely think it's worth reading through. This actually is one of the first books that introduced me to my study of witchcraft and getting more information about it. So I definitely like it from that aspect, just because I've had it for so long and I've kind of compared many things to this book, because again, it was my original introduction to that topic. The things I like about it is that it covers so much variety. Now, as I've mentioned in other videos, witchcraft is a magical practice. It's specifically magic. And something to keep in mind with this is not a book on Wicca. This is a book on witchcraft. However, it does incorporate many different aspects, such as deities, rituals, ceremonies, rites of passage, magical training, just different types of theories in general on theory and practice, as well as actual use of magic. So it covers a great deal of things, and I like that about this book. What I don't like is that it does not acknowledge where these teachings come from, and it does take from a different pool of traditions and kind of mixes them together without saying where it comes from. So if you wanted to do further research, you can't really do that unless you know what you're looking for. So that does bother me a little bit. One of the reviews on this book was actually talking about how they said it was a great book that was written. It's almost like Ed Fitch is creating his own tradition. One of the things that he does discuss in this is he mentions a lot about the inner and outer court. So he's talking about this coven, a very large coven, and this is the outer court introduction, whereas the inner court are, I guess, the select members. I don't know much about that, and I have not gone very far with it. When I have researched some of it, I had some questions about some of the training and the study, and I did reach out to Ed Fitch, and I didn't hear back from him. But again, this is over 10 years ago, and I haven't really pursued it since. So I don't know too much, again, where that was going with, and the fact that they mention in some of the reviews, even in the book, that they were talking about it being almost its own tradition. I wonder what it would be connected to. And again, I haven't read it in a while, so maybe there's some pieces in here that kind of say more about what the inner court is. But it's a great book. I think it's worth reading, and I think it's definitely worth adding to your collection. So let's go to some of the points that I personally would like to call out. First and foremost, I really like a lot of the artwork. I think it's really well done. There is a section in here that I think stands out to me, and it's this little saying. So, to know, to dare, to will, to keep silent are the 4 words of the Magus. In order to dare, we must know. In order to will, we must dare. We must will to possess empire. To reign, we must keep silent. Now, the reason I like that so much is it says so much. It talks about, knowledge and knowing, daring to experiment and to go into further detail or the research or to try, willing, the will behind what you do and what you put into stuff. Again, so critical and essential. To keep silent, something that is a very common thing that is taught in many traditions and practices. If other people know about it, they can make fun of it or criticize it or counterspell to it, whatever the case may be. Keeping silent, that's the reigning part. So I just think that's kind of neat. I like that. There's other pieces in here that I don't like so much, and this is one of the things that kind of stood out to me. The Om, or Ogum, depending on how you want to pronounce it, is actually a Druid tradition, and it has nothing to do with witchcraft, yet it's here in this book. One of those things, like I mentioned, that I feel like should have had more to it. As well as the Futhark runes. Now, these are commonly called the Elder Futhark, and sometimes people will refer to them as the Witches' Runes, which is inaccurate. This is actually a Norse Scandinavian tradition, and it has to do with Scyther, sometimes pronounced Seder or Scyther. It depends on how you want to pronounce it. I'm not really good with my Icelandic, and I don't want to go too much into detail, but essentially the Futhark runes was a writing system used by the Norse Scandinavian people. It applies to their magic and traditions. Commonly today we call it Asatru or Odinism, and again, it doesn't really call that out, so the fact that that's mixed in here, which I guess is common, a lot of people seem to like to use the runes, even though it's from a different tradition. The other thing that I thought was kind of cool, and I did have a video about this, I believe this is the first time I'd mentioned it or seen it in a book, and it was banishing as well as invoking with the pentagram. So going in the different directions, I'd covered this in one of my videos, and this is not the only spot I've seen this. It talks about all the elements. It talks about how you could potentially set up your altar, so it gives you an introduction of that. Again, very good intro book, very good at covering different things. I really like this section in the back for magical training. It covers in here different levels of progression, and it breaks down the training for you. And it's actually a pretty thick section here in the back that covers all these different training techniques and levels for you to develop yourself through. And it covers ceremonies and ways to celebrate the holidays, and it talks about some of the deities and some of the rites of passage that you can move through for like self-initiation, etc. It's really, really cool. I like that aspect. Now, one of the things that I'm not really a huge fan of is some of the training. One of the ones I want to call out specifically is one method of striking the magical flame. This technique here is talking about how you essentially take the air element and you make it into a little bead. You take the fire element, make it into a little bead, like just focusing it down with your will, and you take these two little beads and you put them together right on a wick, and it's supposed to ignite the candle flame. I've never seen this done. Now, is it possible? I like to keep an open mind. Maybe it is possible, but I've never seen it done. I don't know anyone who's capable of doing it. So to have stuff like that in the mix kind of makes me take a step back and question some things. But again, on a whole, I just think it's very well written. I think it covers a lot of stuff, and there's just so much that it goes through. I think it is worth reading, and I think it's worth adding to your collection, regardless of some of the things that might be a little meh. So yeah, those are my thoughts. That's my review. I'd like to hear from you. Do you own this book? Have you read this? What are your thoughts on it? Is this something you would consider reading? So my thoughts, at least, like I said, get it, read through it, add it to your collection if you're able to get a hold of it. So my name is BlazeLeeDragon. Please remember to hit that thumb up, like, and subscribe, and to leave your comments below. Thank you for watching.